I'm very pleased to welcome to Business Unplugged, Paul Caplan. When Paul and I first met, he said, I want to say one thing about this interview, Darren. He said, I just want to reveal everything. We're not going to varnish over anything. Everybody's going to get the absolute truth, the good and the bad. Now, of course, before you like anyone, you have to know them. So let's trace the journey before your success. Where were you born?
I was born in Sheffield.
What's your father's name?
Cyril Caplan.
And your mother's name?
Maureen Caplan.
When you were born, what was your father's occupation?
He was a wholesaler, so he had a wholesale company and he used to make made-to-measure suits as well.
Was he the biggest influence in your life?
Most definitely, yeah.
What's the one bit of wisdom he would have given you as you were growing up?
I know the one he did give me on several occasions. It was to do with working on the shop floor with the customers all the time. So that was one of them. Another was to work hard. He used to work 6 to 7 days a week, and he loved what he did with an absolute passion.
Before we get into the business, can you tell me, what is your greatest talent?
Greatest talent? Wow. Well, I wish it was tennis and golf, but it's not. Golf's something I've been trying to play for 10 years and failed at dismally, but my son was particularly talented at that, but he gave it up and decided to go into fashion and marketing. So my talent would be, I suppose, really, it's actually to do with business. And because I love it so much, and I've been doing it all my life. I've been a retailer, and I've been setting up companies all of my life. So I suppose that's the part that I enjoy the most, and therefore what I do, and what I feel I'm most talented at.
You have a love of jeans.
Yes.
Is it true you have over 50 pairs?
I think at one stage I had over 100 pairs, and it's quite amazing because I'd been involved in the jeans business for 25 years actually in total. So I first opened my jeans shop, first one when I was about 21, and I then built that chain, then that chain went into receivership, and then I built another one. And in that period of time, I had in excess of 100 jeans in my wardrobe. And then my son, when he was about 9 or 10 years old, said, jeans are finished. And I actually did believe that they were. And then I stopped buying jeans and reduced my wardrobe, and actually now it's built up again to about 60, 70 pairs. So.
You mentioned jeans, selling jeans. Tell me about jeanery. And tell me the big fall from grace that you had.
Yeah, I first went into the jeans business. Well, I mean, how life started with me is I suppose it goes back further. I started in the jeans business when I was 21. I opened my first store in Doncaster. And started selling jeans then, and built this chain. Originally it was called Sexy Rexy, and I then changed the name into Jeanery, and we had shops in Yorkshire. We had about 10 stores at the time, and we went into receivership, and I lost everything. And for me, that was my biggest learning in my life, was towards the end of that, when Jeanery collapsed, and I had people coming in the stores, the suppliers taking the stocks back. And it finally got to a stage where it finally went into receivership after I'd reduced costs, taken things out, but the bank in the end just said, no more. And even though I'd reduced my debt considerably, and they weren't in for a lot of money, they actually decided to pull the plug on the business.
How did you deal with that personally? I mean, you tried.
Personally, it was very hard. It took an awful lot out of me, but I wasn't willing to give up. And I actually believe that I learned more in that period of my life than at any other time.
What sort of person were you like to live with or work with during those pressure times? And the reason I ask that question is because these are challenging times for businesses, and many relationships can be broken down under the pressures. I mean, it's fine when businesses are going well, when the economy is booming, but the real test of relationships in business is when the going gets tough. So what were you like?
Well, most probably improved, actually, because I was a tyrant when I first started in business. And when things started going wrong and I had to change the business and reduce the costs and everything else, I improved a lot as a person. And so at that point in my life, I just believed that there was a way forward, and I had to find it, and I would do everything in my power to make sure that that company was going to succeed. And I think that that's what people do, and that's what I took out of that as well, that no matter what, I was going to find a way forward, and we did. I mean, we went from a large warehouse to a smaller warehouse. We reduced the costs in the business. We reduced the amount of people we had in the offices. I reduced my pay. We did everything so that that business would actually make money and break even. But the bank changed. We got put in someone else's hands, which is sign with a bank. If you get changed, your manager changes, or the person who's looking after you changes, you know, and it's a totally different character, you know you're in trouble. And they then tend to really put a lot of pressure on you, and all they're interested in really is getting their money back. And once they got in within £70,000 of their debt, which they then decided to shut the business down, and I think it was around about the 20 December, just Christmas Eve, they closed the business.
Tell me about your pity party, or did you have a pity party where you thought, poor me, why me? It's someone else's fault.
No, I didn't actually. I didn't really have a pity party. Actually, while all this was going on, I actually came up with a whole new concept for how I wanted to sell jeans. And I decided to start a company called Bankrupt Clothing Company. But that happened afterwards. But if you can imagine that on December the 25th, the receivers came in. Now, for me, that was a big relief, and I can only tell you because it took so much pressure off me at that point in time. But what I did was I started again the next week, and I rang up suppliers and I said, look, any products that you've got on your shelves that you can't sell, just send me them. And I don't mind what they are, and I said, I will take 30% and I'll give you 70, because I didn't have a penny at that point in time. The bank had taken my house, you know, which was paying off part of their debt, and basically I'd lost everything. So they then said, the suppliers, what surprised me was actually they filled the shop, and I managed to find a shop that I paid rent, I think it was £50 a week or something like this, and started again with just over £100. I think the most expensive thing actually was the alarm system that I actually had to put in to actually cover the stock. And I remember talking to all of the you know, I had employed 3 people, and I used to say to, you know, we used to talk, and at that point in time we were just saying stock to clear, you know, big banners on the shop front. And I said to them, I said, you know, I've come up with this name of a store, I'd like to call it Bankrupt Clothing Company. And I said, because we've got this stock from suppliers. And what amazed me was we actually filled the shop. Within 7 days, it was overfilled with stock. And the only criteria I had from these suppliers was that I was going to what I was going to do was, even though it was 70-30, I said to them, I want to be able to sell this stock at any price I want to sell it at, because to you it's got no value, and it didn't have any value to them because they couldn't sell it, and I was going to create value for them. So that's how I started. And after 1 month, I'd actually got enough money to go and start buying some jeans from a wholesaler. And I was quite well known in the jeans business at that point in time, and I went to see this wholesaler. His name was Rajan Trading in Manchester, and he had some jeans, and I said, oh, I'd like to start buying jeans. And so I went in there, started buying jeans, and I took these jeans back and put them on a rack, and then started selling them at unbelievably good prices. And that's, you know, how I actually got started. And I went from one business actually straight away into another, and then it started to evolve how Bankrupt Clothing Company was going to be. And so I started with an idea of what I wanted, and then we started moving to that, and I found a way in which I could do it.
In our conversation, our initial conversation, you mentioned that it took that fall to make you a better leader. You mentioned the word tyrant.
Yeah.
You're probably being a bit harsh on yourself there.
Well, I don't think so, actually, at the time. But, what happened was, when I finished, when Jeanery went down and went into receivership, it gave people a real opportunity to be honest with me. And the staff came to me and told me what a bee I was and how terrible I was. And to me, that was a real lesson. I think I got 2 lessons there. One was from the actual teams I worked with, and they said, you know, Paul, you're just terrible. You just don't listen. You are awful in the way you treat people, and, you know, we just think that there's a better way to do it. And that was a big change for me. And then number 2 was, I just better switch this off, actually. Number 2 was the suppliers at that point in time. When I went into receivership, I couldn't afford to pay those suppliers back. And my original intention was to try and keep the business going and pay them back. So I had to turn up at a trade show. Now, if you go to a trade show after you owe all of these suppliers a lot of money, you think it's very difficult. And it taught me that I had to face people and go and talk to them. Now, admittedly, I mean, this was a big trade show at Earl's Court in London for all of the menswear retailers. And I had to go and see all of these suppliers. And it really taught me about humility as well. And it was, you know, I'd come from one business that had a great reputation, and it really brought me down to earth. And I had to go on each supplier, and I said to them, you know, they said, we want our money back. And I said, well, I don't have any money. I said, but if you'll all trade with me, over time, I promise you the business I will do will bring you back everything I owe you. And believe it or not, over 2 years it took them before every single one of them opened their doors back to me again. So that was also an incredible lesson as well. So I had 2 lessons of, I think, humility. One which was how I treat people, and on the other hand was to do with the suppliers as well to me.
I'm always amazed.
By the way, that's not saying to you all go into receivership tomorrow either, because it's something I would want to avoid, you know, at all cost if I possibly could.
I'm always amazed when I hear leaders say it's lonely at the top. I've worked with and studied and written about many leaders who are at the top of their field, and they say, lonely at the top? No. In an organization where the communication is 3D, top down, bottom up, and across departments, a leader should never be lonely because he's got a great team. So how would you define your leadership style now compared to, you mentioned how bad it was, you as the tyrant. What are the benefits of your leadership style today?
Oh, they're a lot different. I suppose people used to talk about, you know, controllers and being in control of a business and control freaks and those types of people. And because of the type of person I was, I really liked to control every decision in the business, right through the business, from start to finish. Nobody could change anything, do anything, unless I decided they were going to do it. Today, it's exactly the opposite. I actually look for how I can do less in the business rather than more, and how I can let everyone within that business run that business themselves. So I have two businesses. I actually have a property business where we do rentals to professionals and students, and I have another business which is the retail side of the business, and I also have a commercial renting business. So in the businesses, I actually look at how can I do less and rather than more, and how can I create an organization in which the people within the organization can actually run that organization themselves, and how can I give them the freedom in which to do that. Now what I learned it was all to do with policies, and strategies were absolutely key to a business. So first of all, where is the business going? So what's the purpose of the business? And then what is the strategy for that business? And then what are the clear policies you want to have in it? And as long as you've got the guidelines, the purpose of the business, and the strategies for a business, in other words, the plans in terms of how you want to achieve what the ambitions are, then it allows people a lot of freedom to work within that, and then they can do and be free to actually and do those types of things in the business. The other thing is I used to do a lot on incentives and bonuses, and especially at Bankrupt Clothing Company, I went through this stage where every store had an incentive. We had league tables, one store against the other store. We used to have bonuses for getting your stock check right. We used to have bonuses for having the highest conversion rate in the business. And I learned quite quickly that actually these bonuses and rewards that I had in the business were actually causing people to fight one another in the business, and it wasn't helping our business at all. What would help a lot more would be if I could just get people to come to work and do a good job. And the Go Outdoors, there are no bonuses, there are no incentives. People just come there. They do a great job at Go. You know, people work long hours if they want to. We do not force them to. And some people don't work the long hours, but they do it because they want to do it. My only thing is to reward people well. Yeah. And I believe that, and I'm talking about you pay them well. And that's how I've changed in terms of how I lead now. And I have this belief that people come to work because they want to do a good job. And very few people believe it, but when they come to Go Outdoors and they come in our offices and they see how happy people are, and genuinely there's a lot of very happy people there, they say, well, why is it like that? And it's like that because we've removed barriers that cause unhappiness within the company.
When I go into companies, I watch everything from the receptionist. I'm always amazed how, you know, people don't give enough respect to the receptionist when that's the first voice that every customer hears. But when I was in Go Outdoors, my antenna is always up and I'm watching all the little points. And I was listening to two of your guys have a conversation, and one of them said, what's the best solution for this? How can we get there quicker? And I thought, this is brilliant. These are two guys looking at an issue, and rather than, I listened to the whole conversation and I won't reveal it here, but rather than my way is best, no, my way is best, no, actually, we both have a valid opinion, let's try and find a third way, which is better than my way and your way. So I was really impressed with that. That was one of the things I noticed. Go Outdoors. Let's go back to when this started. Your wife says, Paul, we need a barbecue. It's Sunday.
Yeah.
Tell
me. One day it's a Sunday. She says, I want a Weber barbecue. I'm saying, well, where do I get a Weber barbecue from? And I'd sold Bankrupt Clothing Company. I started a property business at that point in time, and she sent me. And she said, you can go to CCC, which is a caravan and camping centre it stood for in Sheffield. It was a 30, 40-year-old business, and I walked in there, and it was like an Aladdin's cave. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I was absolutely fascinated by it. And I just looked at it and I thought, my goodness, they sell tents and they sell walking shoes and they sell all of this outdoor clothing. And with jeans, I'd always been trying to explain to customers the benefits of a tape seam and stuff like this, but this stuff had inherent benefits in the actual garments we were selling. In other words, it protected you. And so I was thinking, wow, there's all these products in here. They all have a purpose. This is a fantastic concept for a business nationally. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And people then used to say to me, well, what are you going to do, next? And I said, well, I'm going to buy properties, because properties were relatively inexpensive at that point in time compared to everything else in the marketplace, and I believed that they were going to go up. And so I started buying residential properties whereby at that point in time you could borrow money at about 7% and you're getting 15 to 20% return on rentals. So for me that part was a no-brainer. And when I looked at Go Outdoors, I was thinking I'd love to do this business, or CCC at the time. So what happened then was I just went around saying to people, they said, what do you want to do next? I said, I really want to buy CCC. And one day, 2 years later, and this is the God's honest truth, out of the blue, Grant Thornton called me up, one of the partners there, and they said to me, they said, do you want to buy CCC? So I said, I'd absolutely love to. So I walked in, I went to see them, and they said, well, it's for sale. And the manager of the store, John Graham, who's my partner today, he's been trying for 3 years to raise money to buy this business. I mean, another, fantastic entrepreneur, my partner. He's been trying to buy this business for 3 years, and he hasn't found a bank or anyone to support him. Would you be interested? I said, of course I'd be interested. So I went to see Stephen Ingram, who from Ingram Forest, who actually sold my last business for me. And I said to him, I want to buy this business. CCC, it's for sale, I'd like to buy it. So he said, well, sorry, I can't deal with you. I said, what do you mean you can't deal with me? He says, I'm already dealing with someone on it. So he said, I'll get back to you. And the person he was dealing with was John Graham, my partner today, the manager of the store. And I met John, and he told me his vision for Go Outdoors. And I loved it. And I said, I'll put up the money for this. We then got investors in YFM, and we got a bank in, which bank was it at the time? Midland Bank, I think it was, HSBC. And they actually, what I also learnt from my previous business, that they did a management buyout of Bankrupt Clothing Company, and I learnt from them that I could actually not put any money in myself and actually get investors to put the money in. In other words, YFM was a fund, what are they called? Like 3 Eyes, etc. I can't remember. And they invested in the business, and I could actually get 60% of the business for actually putting in very little money. Mm-hmm. And John got just over 20%, and then the investors, YFM, they got 20% as well. So the bank and investors put in most of the money, and we then started this business together with one store. I think we had 18 staff at the time, and it was quite interesting because John's vision was, I think, one of the clearest visions I've ever seen. And when people have got a very clear vision of what they want to achieve in their life, because of all the people I've met, that somehow or other, they're going to find a way to make that happen. And he never gave up in getting the money, and actually he then started to get this to happen. And I remember our first day, first of all, because he was so keen to get the business, and our stock was all on sheets of paper from the previous owner. So on those sheets of paper, which is A4 hand sheets of paper, we had to buy this business. And of course, I found out the stock was slightly overvalued, and we'd bought a lot of bad stock in the business. So the first year we meant to make, I think, £100,000. We thought we had, We had no computer system in the business at that point in time. And in fact, we lost 30,000. And I remember thinking, and the reason I'm telling you this is because John Graham, my partner, he didn't think, he thought to himself, what does this guy know about the outdoors? He's a jeans retailer, knows nothing about business. And everything I would say to John, he wouldn't listen to, because he thought he knows nothing. And therefore we had this going on in our relationship right at the beginning. And I remember when I was younger, the only way that I learned things was actually by going through and doing them myself. And at the end of that first year, when we'd lost we'd lost £30,000, the investors started to get very concerned. And they actually told me on Christmas Eve they thought it was better if they found a new chairman for the company. And I said, well, if you can find someone to do it better than me, then so be it, you should. And I said to John at the time, I said, the bank's going to start calling in their money, because I knew about all this from my past. I said, we've got to reduce the stock level, and I think we'd built our stock level up to about 600,000. And he said, well, we need this stock to sell. And I said, well, if we carry on with the stock, the bank will ask us to reduce this 200,000 that they'd given us. And so what we did was we reduced the stock level, and it started coming down. It finally got down to about £250,000. We paid off the bank debt, and I also at the same time said to John, you need to talk to the bank and explain to them what we're going to do next, how are we going to get through this part of it. And he sat down with the bank and he said, right, we owe you, and I think it was £500,000 at the time, which we had left in bank debt, and we only had the one store. He said, and he went through with them and the accountant, and they went through how they were going to repay the bank over 10 years. And so that put the bank to one side, and then we had the investors who had put another, I think it was 600,000 or 700,000 in the business at that point in time. And we said to those investors, we said, they said, well, what about us? And I said, look, we'd have to deal with you for another year. And within that year, we changed the business from a loss to a profit, and then we started to build the business, and it then started to make 100,000, and then we got to where we are today. We've had some ups and downs in that period of time, but
you made a very good point about
I think it really helped our partnership as well, John's and mine, because he started to understand that I understood the business side.
You made a very good point about facing your problems and communicating. Many people are not good at communicating when the bank is calling or suppliers come calling. You had that humble moments beforehand, and you learned from that. What would you say to somebody, whether they're in the audience or who'll watch this on video online, what would you say to them when they have a problem with the bank? Or maybe they have to deliver bad news of any sort, whether it's letting an employee go or telling a supplier, I don't want to deal with you anymore.
I think, look, one of the things is about banks is they lose confidence. And usually people let things go on too long. They don't keep the bank informed. And now we keep our bank informed about every single thing all of the time. So I would tend to really... Number one, we have monthly management accounts, we have weekly management accounts, which give us an idea of where that business is going. We share all of our plans of where we're taking the business with the bank. So if things go wrong, and they have done, for go over these years, it's never been plain sailing for us. So keep your bank right with you all the time, however tough it gets. And I would be honest with them, and that's what we've been. And keep them informed. Now, at some points in time, it doesn't work. So I can give you a perfect example. I went to see RBS 3 years ago. We were about to go on a huge, we'd invested in the infrastructure of Go at that point in time. We had employed a lot of people to go for big growth of 10 stores a year. And I went to see the RBS, and I sat down with them. And I said to them, I said, you know, in fact, they said to me, after laying out the red carpet for the 2 years, this is about 4 years ago, actually, about sort of when the bank crisis just started. And I sat down with them, and they said to me, Paul, and I said, yeah, you're not opening any more shops. And I said, but you can't really do this. We haven't done anything wrong. We've done nothing wrong. So that was the first time in my life I'd ever come across the fact that we'd actually done nothing wrong. And they said, not only that, you know, you owe us, and I think at that point in time it was £12 million, we'd like it back. So I'm thinking, this is 4 years ago, we were, you know, a relatively small company, we'd built all of these things to expand, what am I going to do? And so I said to him, yeah, okay, fine, look, listen, I'll do whatever you want, we won't grow the stores. But what they didn't know, and I knew at that point in time, because I had a feeling about this a year beforehand, was there was something wrong with the RBS. My intuition was right, and we lined up 3 other banks to take Go Outdoors on, and one of those banks was the Bank of Scotland, and they were phenomenal. So I had one bank want to close me down, the other bank actually saying to me, you know, open the stores you want to open, here's the money to do it, and we then started laying down these stores. And so I think also if you have close contact with your banks, you can also read when the sea is changing, and you need to take actions at that point in time and talk to other people and find other investors. So that there's 2 things there really. So one is stay in contact with them, and number 2 is if you feel that the relationship's not working anymore, start looking very early on for somewhere else. But I would always keep the doors open, by the way, to any bank as well. So if the RBS came back to me now, I've also learnt at different points in time, banks are willing to do different things. So, you know, I would still do business. If RBS wanted to do something with me tomorrow, I would also look at opening my doors to them.
The name Go Outdoors.
Yeah.
Whose brainwave was that?
Well, it was mine, actually. What happened was we were looking for a new name from CCC, and we were looking for something that would represent what we were doing. And I just said to John, you know, we were having a meeting with all of our management team, what should we call Go Outdoors? What should we call CCC? We had a company called Mitchell's, we had in Wakefield, which we bought, which was the second business that we actually bought, and we had CCC, and we were opening at that point in time in Coventry, and we decided we wanted to rebrand ourselves with one brand, and the brand I came up with was Go Outdoors. And the reason I came up with Go Outdoors was because, and I started thinking about it, what do you do? How do I want to sell it? And John said to me, look, I only want to sell outdoor products. We want to be a real brand for outdoor activities. And I don't want to sell anything like tennis, golf. You know, I'd love us to sell golf, and a lot of customers would, but John doesn't. So, you know, there are guidelines, and I think that, so therefore we maintain this thing. And I thought, go. You go riding, horse riding. You go cycling, you go climbing, you go walking, you go fishing. But you don't go tennis, and you don't go golf, and you don't go football. So I thought, go outdoors, and that's how it came up.
We want to talk about marketing and customer service. Many people in the audience, I had a chat with them beforehand, and marketing and customer service are top of their minds. Let's look at marketing first. In today's world of globalization and deregulation, I mean, once you have a website, I mean, you are a global business, really. I mean, there's a chance that someone around Europe, around the world, can actually take your customer. That's it. I'm always surprised when I see in a company the lack of respect for marketing. I'm not saying it should have its position at the top table, but marketing and HR, I believe, from many companies I've seen, don't get high enough ranking in an organization.
Wow.
Where do you put marketing?
I think I put product number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put product number 1 in any company. So, or maybe I put I suppose, it depends how we're looking at this, but you put customers as first. You then, underneath that, put the people to support the customers. You then put the products, and the product is key to any business. So, any retail business to do with the products that you're selling. And then next after that, I would have marketing. Now, I am a huge believer in marketing. I think it really builds a business and builds brands and really makes a difference. So one of the things we looked at very early on at CCC at the time was we found out our customers were only visiting once a year. We had to get this business, and by the time we finished with that one store, we grew it 300% over a 3-year period. One of the things we wanted to do was get customers to come back in the store. And we were thinking, how do you do it? And I said, and one guy said to us, who was on the board from the institution who invested in us, YFM, he said to us, he said, REI do this membership scheme. And John and I thought, wow, that's a really good idea. What about a membership scheme? So we thought, that'd be good. And then we thought, and I remembered a guy called Cohen, Mr. Cohen, and he was based in Leeds actually at the time. He used to sell suits, and he said to me, I charged £1 for everyone to come in my store. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. People were willing to pay £1 just to enter his store. And he showed me these pictures of people queuing outside the store. So I thought, wow, okay, so let's do a discount card. And at the beginning of the discount card, we didn't charge for it. And we used it to collect people's names and addresses. I mean, I don't think we really realized how valuable this was going to become as the company's grown. And we have a database now of nearly 2 million homes. And so we started this discount card, and then we wrote to the customers. So this allowed us to write to all the customers, and it was phenomenal, the response. We had CCC, and in that one evening, I think we had so many queues. They were queuing all around the shop. It was about, 20,000 square foot shop. The queues were humongous, and we'd only written to 6,000 people. It was like the whole of them turned up in that one evening, and we then start to learn the power of actually not only marketing but communicating with those customers and how valuable the names and addresses were that we were getting. I mean, this is 15 years ago, so for retailers we were way in front. And so then we started the discount card, and finally John said to me, all right, we'll charge £1 for it. And we started this double price structure because we realized that people in the marketplace were getting discounts. And we wanted to not just offer a student discount or a climber's discount or a walker's discount. We wanted to offer everyone a discount. So we came up with the discount card. We had double prices. So if you had a discount card, you got a minimum of 10% off. And then we started to come up with unbelievable offers where customers actually get things at virtually what they cost. And then if you didn't have a discount card, then you'd just pay the normal retail price. And this started to work very well, and it also gave us a database, a big database of customers who we write to every month. And then we started marketing newspapers, radio, TV, and that brought in more customers. And therefore, one of the biggest things for us was how we communicate to customers. And what's fascinating about today is how it's changed. And I actually think that retail now is a whole new dimension. And I think that even at Go, we've got to rethink how we actually operate, because the consumer now has the internet to work on. And the web is a fantastic thing. So, everybody's got to make use of this web at the present moment. I think we just have over 500,000 customers' email addresses now. It's growing by, say, 100 to 200,000 people a year. We have nearly 400,000 to 500,000 people who visit our website a week, and that's growing at over 100%. And what I've learned from all this is that people's shopping habits have completely changed. And it's like it happened overnight. It's as though all these tools have come about overnight. And how a shopper is looking at shopping now is, and this is how you have to be, you have to get into your customer and understand your customer. That's absolutely critical to anybody who's in business. You must understand your customer, and the customers change the way they shop. And how they want to shop today, which is critical to how you market your company, is they actually are shopping on the internet. So a greater proportion, I mean, it's 30% of our customers. In fact, it's most probably now, the last survey we did, it was 50% of our customers were actually looking online before they even came in the store. And that 50% of customers, which is an incredible amount of customers now, it was only 14% 4 years ago, is looking online, and they then have a choice. Right, I'll buy it online. Well, a third of them do that. The other third, they want to reserve and collect. So another third say, right, I'd like that product, I'll go and buy it. And the other third are just searching online, and then they say, well, I'll just go in the store and pick it up. So today, the way things have changed, the web has become like the voice of the store. People aren't just turning up at the store and buying things anymore. They want to know that they're actually there. And that's been a big change for us. And then when they go to the store, you know, what they want to see in the store is they want to be able to know that that product's there, but if it's not there, they actually want to be able to order it, and they want to be able to have it delivered to their home. And even though we don't do that part yet, that's what we are looking at for the future. It's got to be done like that, that a customer, you know, the thing about today is in retail is putting products in customers' hands, and how best can you do it? And then the other thing is obviously customer service, which has got to be, I think it's going to grow and grow and grow over the next few years, about how you treat the customers in the marketplace and how well you look after them.
I was so excited after our first meeting. I'm not giving my book a plug here, but I wrote a book, Love Your Customer, Grow Your Business. And people said to me, love, what are you using the word love for? Love doesn't go in business. And some people miss the point. Let's take, for example, a tent in your store. You're allowing people to actually feel what it's like. They can bring their kids in. They can say, Tina's going to sit here, Becky's going to sit here, Mum and Dad are going to sit here, and we're going to have a bottle of wine when the kids are gone to bed or whatever. Or the dog can even fit in here. What advice would you give to businesses in a different field about how to invite the customer in so they can feel the business and like the business?
Well, what advice would I give to people who want to feel and like the business? I think it's listening to your customers, and it's how you listen to them. And so, for instance, I'll give you an example. The team at Go have designed this tent. Like with every tent, we do like 70, 80 models of tent, but in some stores we can't fit all of the models up. So they did this board, and it's triangular. And you have to turn these triangles, so it's three-sided, what's it called when there's three-sided thing? It's not triangular, it's three sides made up of triangles anyway. So it's sort of like that. What? Pyramid, that's the word, yeah, I'm looking for. Pyramid. Thank you very much. And it's a pyramid. So there's a pyramid there. So I went across, because he said, you know, we'd like to come and see this. So I went across and I said, you know, great, it's a pyramid. And you have to turn these pyramids around to see the range. So I thought, well, I'm not going to say anything here, but that doesn't quite work. It's not quite simple enough for me, you know. So there were some customers there looking at tents, and I said, excuse me. I said, yeah. I wonder if you can help me. I said, yeah, we're looking at buying this tent, and, you know, we've ordered it and everything else. And I said, yeah, we've got this tent. And he said, yeah, I was in here the other day, and I was looking at it. And I said, well, and his wife said, I'm a psychologist. I said, fantastic, you know. She says, I look at how people think. And I said, great. And I said, what do you think of this? And I said, do you know it turns round? And they said, no. How would we know? And I said, how would you design this? And they said, just one flat board, make it really simple, you know, and then they can see everything. And also I put some leaflets in it. And, you know, the guy said, wow, that's a good idea. Let's do one flat board, put some leaflets in it. They could take the leaflets out, because I like to take things home, they said, and read them. And, you know, so the biggest thing is, you know, listen to customers. They will give you the answers that they want, and you know, do everything you can to make it a customer-friendly environment. In some of our stores, we actually put dog food outside, and we actually allow dogs in most of our stores. We have had some accidents, by the way, and we have actually had people who, you know, get affected by dogs. But we got such a, you know, a thing that people wanted to bring their dogs, and we're an outdoor store. You know, why can't you bring them in the store? So we let them bring them in. So, you know, just think about it. You know, are they your rules or the customer's rules that you're actually building your company by?
I was very impressed with the minor details that you look at. Let me give you an example. I was invited to a seminar last year, and when I arrived, it was a wet Wednesday morning, and there was car parking. And I remember pulling into the car park thinking, I wonder why that wasn't put on the bottom of the email, free car parking. The seminar wasn't full. This was a seminar for about 30 people at a firm in Leeds. The seminar wasn't full, and I thought, I wonder how many people woke up this morning, saw it raining, and thought, oh, will there be car parking? Will I have to park 10 yards away or 500 yards away? Oh, I couldn't be bothered. I only got my hair done. Well, okay. Someone else might say, I only got my hair done the other day. I couldn't be bothered. Those little details where you actually jump into the mind of the customer and think how they're going to feel when they wake up the morning, and how they're thinking, rather than you putting on this big show. And that's what I was very impressed with. I was in your store last year. My wife got me into camping 2 years ago, and I absolutely love it. And I broke one of the poles. You know, I wasn't taking my time putting up the tent. I'm still reminded about that. But when I brought it back to your store, the guy fixed it, but he also showed me how to put up the tent properly. And he didn't do it in a condescending way. Because many times in companies, have you ever phoned up a computer company or the bank? And I mean, you're not an expert in their field, but they've probably said the same thing a million times to a million different customers, and here you are on the phone saying the same thing. And sometimes they pay disregard for your feelings and they make you feel like an idiot. Other times they explain it to you and they make you feel human, and they don't make you feel like an idiot. And I always think with customer service, consistency is so important. And I think it was Ray Kroc of McDonald's who said, you're not just in business, you're in show business. And like whether it's someone appearing on stage singing the same song 500 times, they sing it like they're singing it for the very first time. But I've noticed that in your stores, the consistency of the customer service. How do you encourage that consistency and make sure it stays?
John and I, we're both passionate about customer service. So we really are. That's one of the things I loved about John when I first met him, was how passionate he was about it. And that passion has driven the business. And we continually talk about customer service in our company. Now, how John wanted it was different to how I used to have it in Bankrupt Clothing Company. In other words, he wanted people there to just help. And I, at Bankrupt Clothing Company, wanted people who would sell. So we don't attack customers in go, we let people browse around, and we're there to actually aid and help people. And that's what we do, and that's the environment we train in, and we've got clear guidelines. And then we try and get people in our business who love selling and doing the activities that we do.
The property side.
Yeah.
You know your property well. When I mention property, anytime you smile, are you better at property than...
No. I'm a lot better retailer than I mean, property I do because, you know, I like negotiating things. So I like the beginning of property, negotiating the buy, and I like the end of it, negotiating the sell. The bit in the middle, the renting and the running of it, to be honest with you, I think it's not for me. It's boring. And so I don't enjoy that part of it at all, whereas retail is exciting every day. There's always something new happening in retail. And so retail is really exciting every day. Something's always different, something's always new, it never stands still, and it's always changing. And that is what makes it fun. And that's why Go Outdoors is just so much fun to be in.
Customer service. How people are unhappy with customer service in this country.
Yeah.
Where does it have to go? We don't want it to go to the model across the Atlantic where it's have a nice day and it's not meant. But surely there has to be a balance between what we do and what
America,
they do.
actually, it's quite interesting because I don't feel it's quite like that. I know part of it's false, but there is a genuine thing in America. They do actually want to help you, and it's a very much a cultural thing that we have to get in this country. I think that in the last, since we had the boom, customers became less and less important because everyone was there spending so much money, and I think it's paramount to a business, and I think that over the next few years we're going to see radical changes in customer service in every single way, and the passion for it is going to become even greater and the hunger for it greater, and I actually think that things will start to change here. I also think that the internet has allowed people to complain a lot more. I get every single email, so if you want to email me, just email Go Outdoors, complain, or even compliment us, and I get every single email and I read every single email because I'm interested in what the customer's got to say, and it's getting hard to do now. I mean, there's hundreds of these things coming through every single day. I mean, they're all different inquiries, but every inquiry at Go Outdoors I now try and look at, not because I want to do something with it. If it is a serious complaint, I will send it to the executive team, and I'll just say, you know, we could lose a customer here. And in fact, if there is a complaint, they will bend over backwards to sort that complaint out. And our objective is to get that customer to come back to Go Outdoors. And that's what I would say to everyone. Don't lose customers. Find every way you can to get them to come back to you.
How do you achieve work-life balance? Or is it possible in your line of work?
Yeah, it is actually. I actually have a phenomenal life. I'm very, very fortunate. I met when I was younger a gentleman, and he said I only work 3 days a week, and he ran a company, and I always was thinking in my life, how can I do that? And this was when I was in my 20s. I was thinking, this is impossible. I was working 24/7, 7 days a week, you know, and it just remained on my mind, and I then thought the best way of doing this is give up control. And since I've done that, I actually make it so I work even less, and I've actually had to take up activities like golf and tennis to actually stop me working because I just love it so much. So work to me is actually pleasure. I enjoy every day of it, and I've taken up activities to actually help me not work as much. So it works very, very well, and because there's so many people now in the business, they do honestly all the running of the business. I actually do very, very little. I usually come in and help. I mean, if things are going really badly, I would actually come and help. And I remember 4 or 5 years ago at Go, the whole business collapsed. My CEO, John Graham, he flew off a motorbike. So he was in hospital, nearly dead, and that's quite serious. Broke his collarbone, his back, his hips, his legs, his arm was completely shattered, and he was lying there in a hospital bed. We had just taken on a new computer system which didn't work as ever, and it couldn't read any of the stop lines we were carrying, and at the same time we'd opened Loughborough and Wolverhampton, Loughborough and Wigan, and so we'd opened 2 new stores, and at the same time we'd moved our web from Sheffield, our web distribution, to Coventry. So this all happened in this 1 month. And the business, you know, I hadn't really been, I was working there at that point in time 1 day a month. And so I said, right, okay, I better go and help. So I got a team of 20 people. So anyone who was involved and in charge of any area, they sat at this table, and every week we met. And I got the information about what stock we needed, what was happening in the company, what we had to do with this computer system. So we covered every area of the business. John Graham, bless him, I don't know how he did this, but after 3 weeks, he actually came and lay on the floor while we were having this meeting. And we ran the business through this meeting, and we managed to get through all of this. And in 3 months, we changed the business. And at that point in time, I also said, you know, and John said to me, Paul, come and help me grow it. And so I said, okay, I think it's about time. And we then started opening 8 to 10 stores a year. So we've now got to this 40. So,
what's your biggest regret?
My biggest regret, gosh. You know, I was thinking about that question, and I was thinking, what do I really regret? And I regret very little in my life, actually. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had opportunities, don't get me wrong, and I remember, you know, these little digital cameras we've all got on our phones and everything else. I met the guy who first invented these in America, and he offered me the whole of Europe for that. So that was an interesting thing, and I didn't really take that seriously as I should, and he told me how incredible it was going to be, and I thought, wow, you know, you're going to give me the whole of Europe, should I do it? And there was a point in my time where I could have, but I didn't. Yeah. But do I really regret it? No, not really. I think it was a lot of fun.
What's your favourite word?
My favourite word is can do, I suppose. That's it, you know. I like optimism. I really do think that's one of the most important things. So.
What's your least favourite word?
I just can't do it. I think it's well, it's rather than a word, I think it's an expression. I think people who come to me with excuses about why things can't get done, mm-hmm. I actually don't agree. And it's something that I find very hard, because if a business is going to move forward, you can't have excuses of why you're not doing it. So it'd be actually more to do with people can't do. Would be
if heaven is real,
yeah.
and you are lucky to be granted a seat,
yeah.
In many years to come,
yeah.
Who would be the first person you'd go and say hello to?
I think my father, really. Because, mm-hmm. You know, he helped me enormously in my life, so I think my father would be the person.
I told everybody after I met you for the first time, I said, I'm really looking forward to this interview because Paul is very open. I mean, because he wants to help, and there's no varnishing over the truth. So I just want to say thank you very much for that. And a big thank you to you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're absolutely grateful for the wisdom and honesty of Paul Caplan of Go Outdoors. I believe we have a few questions, do we? Do we have? Okay. Here's one question for you, Paul. This was sent through the internet to the Yorkshire Mafia. The cycle of boom and bust that we have heard about, how has it taken its toll on you?
Well, it's quite interesting. Taking its toll on me in terms of Go Outdoors. We've done very well through a very difficult time because there's been big advantages for us in this time. So it's actually opened up big opportunities for us in the property market in terms of the stores that we could take, because we take large sheds like they were Focuses or B&Qs or MFIs. Mm-hmm. And therefore it's opened up all of those, and it's also opened them up at unbelievable rates, so we have a very low cost business, so it's helped us a lot. So this cycle's helped us, and I think that what people have got to do is look for opportunities in this cycle. So the bus cycle is really the time for opportunity, and it just takes people to find those opportunities in the cycles that they're going through in their businesses, because they are there, they do exist, and they won't exist in the boom times. So the boom time is actually the hardest time, I think, to actually grow a business. And I know that might seem ridiculous, but it's a lot tougher in the boom times than it is in these times, because the opportunities are here now. And it's interesting, you know, my son has just opened a shop in Notting Hill in London, and it's cost, 3 of them have set up a business. They make all their own product, and they've just started this business, very low cost, cost them £3,000 to set up this store. They built the store themselves. You know, he doesn't want my help to do it. They just want to build this business. So, you know, and they're building a business, and they're using online, and they're using Facebook, and all of the modern ways to get people. You know, they had an opening party, so they invited all their friends, and I think 300 or 400 people turned up. And it's just a little shop, you know, and it's fascinating to watch them do it at this point in time. My daughter, she's just developed jewellery called Mara, it's called, and it goes on bikinis, and she's now started for me a website, and it costs, I think, £5, and she makes them all herself, and she's working out how she can market that. So I think that, you know, now's a good time, and I would look at that. I think if your business is going through a tough time, then you have to get your business so that you reduce costs in a business. And if you reduce costs and get your business back to just breaking even and then making money, you'd be amazed how quickly you can start to turn that business around as well.
One more question for you. With regards to charities, what do you believe is the best way for charities to engage companies like yours?
Wow, you know, just this December, I was very fortunate. I won a prize where I went away with Richard Branson of Unite. And we arrived in South Africa, and I was just blown away. He does this thing called Virgin Unite, and he's helping entrepreneurs, and there's new entrepreneurs in South Africa, and he's helping them get started. He's formed a school out there. And then after that, we visited an AIDS clinic, which helped 1.5 million people and helped them with AIDS. And while I was there, I met this gentleman called Bill, and he had a hearing aid company, and the hearing aids, he got into hearing aids when he was about 18, 19, and now is the biggest manufacturer, £750 million turnover in hearing aids in America. And he got into it because he wanted to help people. And it was amazing. He was out there personally, actually, fitting. They were giving 500 hearing aids to the community out there at this AIDS centre, and he was there personally at 72 years old fitting those things. And I was thinking, you know, I'd like to be him. I'd like to do that. And we've got involved this year with Mountain Rescue, and we're raising money now as a company for Mountain Rescue, and we're going to look at how I can help him. I'd like to start a 3 Peaks challenge now as well, so that's something I'd like to look at, where we can raise money for charities through that. And then we look at ways that we can help people. So I think that fundamentally a business needs to start off by looking after itself and the people within the organisation and the customers, and then it needs to grow into an organisation where it can start helping others. You know, that's what we're going to do at Go.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Paul Caplan.